Hey everyone, Anime Echoes here. So I'm going to be doing a tier ranking for Magi, the Labyrinth of Magic. This is a tier ranking for all of the arcs, so let's get right into it. I'm pretty excited because I do like this series quite a bit. I really enjoyed it back in the day and I recently finished it. And yeah, I thought it was a pretty good time overall. But yeah, let's get into it. So that first one is the dungeon arc. Now the dungeon arc is the first arc where Alibaba and Aladdin meet. It's essential. I have reread that one. It's not paced the best in my opinion, or like it is just like how it's starting out. I would probably put it as like a C. Like I don't think it's like bad or anything. I just feel like it's the first arc and it does what it needs to do, but it doesn't really do anything more than that. I think the best thing about the arc is essentially Aladdin and Morgiana and Alibaba coming together. And that's the main thing. Like the three main characters have come together and it does a pretty good job of that. I just wish it was like the dungeon itself wasn't that interesting. They were just kind of killing these ants or whatever. There was some interest in regards to like that other slave that Morgiana was with, and also the villain of this arc. But at the end of the day, just compared to everything else that came out, I'm going to chuck it at C. In terms of like it does the job, but it doesn't really stand out in any way. The next arc is the Koga arc, and that's the arc right after, but it's with Aladdin only. Like we meet Hakue and yeah, I don't really want to get into like that much detail about this arc, but it didn't really do that much for me personally, but I also think it serves the story. I think that that grandmother, not the grandmother, but like she's like the leader of the group and how she connects with Aladdin about like how everything is kind of connected in a certain way. I think that part was important because Aladdin does remember her and he does actually reference her throughout. So clearly she had like an impact on Aladdin, but personally I'm just going to put it at D. This is Morgiana's arc, the one where she's yeah, like she saves like a bunch of people from that slave owner. Yeah, I would put that in C. I don't remember there being much to really talk about, probably mostly because I don't actually remember what specifically happens, but I do remember her beating the crap out of the tigers, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I'm just gonna check it at C. Now the Belbad arc, this is something I'm going to chuck at A. Like I think it's a really good arc. I think this was the arc that like hooked me, which I don't think is particularly surprising considering this is generally the arc that hooks everyone. Yeah, this arc is pretty good. There's a lot of good moving stuff. Just Alibaba's character in general, like his backstory and his relationship with Kasim is really good. Kasim seems to be, I would say he's like the emotional through line for the arc. Like he is kind of volatile and he has a lot of anger within him, and his relationship with Alibaba is that emotional push. But it's not just that in this arc, though that is a significant portion of it. It's also like Alibaba seeing like what it actually means to like be a king, like comparing himself to Sinbad and seeing that he like falls short in a certain way, but also rising to the occasion, which I thought was good. I also enjoyed like the initial mystery where it was like, has Alibaba gone to the dark side? And you know, as you're watching, you clearly know that's probably not the case, but like it does create a certain sense of mystery, which is like, well, what did happen? Which is something I enjoyed. I really like that moment where it's Alibaba and Morgiana and Aladdin just in that room, and he just tells them the story and they kind of figure things out as friends. I thought that was really good. I also really liked the moment where Ugo like destroys Judah. Like that was epic. Like that was like, really awesome. That was like that moment's pretty like embedded into my brain as like, well, like in terms of like shonen action, this is like one of the higher parts for Magi, which is like just the way it uses like magic and also like just physical brawn. It kind of like with Ugo, just the whole thing was very interesting, and also like just Ugo's decision to act that way towards Judah almost immediately. We can kind of infer why, just based on the later arcs. So I feel like it also sets a pretty good foundation as well. And also seeing Alibaba do his I can't remember if it's called a Jin. I don't think it's a Jin equip, but he's able to essentially make that sword, which was cool. And I've always loved Alibaba's fighting style, which is where he uses his royalty, like his royal sword play, to his advantage. So I thought that seeing that as well, and how he has to fight that elephant thing, that was nice, where he cuts it in half with that new blade. Also, like his brothers and stuff, and the story with the dad. I thought they were like pretty good villains for the arc. But ultimately, like the best thing about it was his relationship with Kasim and yeah, all that stuff. So yeah, Balbad's a pretty solid arc, and I'm definitely leaving it at A. The Sindria arc. I'm pretty sure this. I mean, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I'm pretty sure this is like right after the. I'm pretty certain this is right after Balbad, like the Sindria arc. But is this before Balbad or right after? Give me 1 second. Okay, yeah, I know what that arc is. Yeah, so it is like the Sindria arc. And yeah, with that arc, it's I do like it. I think it serves its purpose. Like I do enjoy it more than the introduction arc and Morgiana's arc. I feel like it sets up a lot of good things. Like we get to see Hakuryu and things like that, and yeah, just like more Co-Empire stuff. And also we get to see like a lot more of like Sinbad's side, like his whole like we get to explore like Sindria, which is what makes it exciting. But yeah, I'm just going to leave it at B for now. I'll probably put the other Sindria arc as well, where like Ithnan comes back and we get to see, you know, Sinbad show his powers off and, you know, all that good stuff. Yeah, I'll put that there as well. And that's this one. So I'm going to put, yeah, I'll just put that there. I'll make them interchangeable because I'm not, like, I don't 100% remember, but yeah, we'll just leave them there for now. The Zagan arc, I'll probably put in C. It's probably better than these first two arcs, but personally, like just like I said with the first arc with the dungeon explorations, I'm not really that big of a fan of the dungeon exploration part of Magi. Like I don't find exploring the dungeons that much fun. I find the characters and the politics and all that more fun. And Zangan's another one where we explore like the dungeon, but there are some good character moments in, especially for Hakuryu. And we get to actually like see his character, and we get to see his dynamic with Morgiana, Aladdin, and especially like Alibaba as well. So that part's definitely important for like future arcs. So that's why I'm going to put it as C. Now the pirate arc, I think is a good one. Yeah, I do specifically enjoy the pirate arc because it feels like Hakuryu's descent, which I think is pretty exciting. I'm going to put it here, like in front of the two Sindria arcs, because I do specifically like the whole like Almadora and like how she's like essentially controlling the children or manipulating them, like all of that stuff, and then Hakuryu eventually like cutting off her head because it reminds him of his mother, and that's where like the break happens between Hakuryu and the rest of the gang. So just for all that drama, I'm going to put it in B. While I feel like the Sindria arcs don't have as much drama, it's more just like story and setup, which to me is personally less interesting than the drama that Magi creates. Okay, the world exploration arc. I do enjoy this arc just from like where's Morgiana going? Where's Aladdin going? Where's Alibaba going? Probably put it after the Sindria stuff because I don't think it's as exciting as the Sindria stuff. But yeah, I'll just put it at B. I don't really have much to say for that. Okay, the Magnestadt arc, I'm going to put that in S. So this is really where Magi like shows its worth in my opinion. Just its ability to tackle just so many different things at once. Like I feel like Balbad was like a focused arc. There was a lot of focus with Alibaba. But Magnestadt and the arcs after this showcases Magi's ability to not just focus on a few characters, but to focus on a huge a band of characters, but still create like a good amount of depth. And that's what I like about the Magnestadt arc, especially Matal Mogamet. I think he was like a really great character. I also really enjoyed seeing like the underworld of Magnestadt and how they were siphoning Magi from all of the people who lived there in like the lower ranking part of the city. So I really loved that. But like specifically Matal Mogamet was my favorite part because he always wondered why magicians existed, and he saw how the world like saw magicians first as just being like cattle, and then they revered them, and then just as quickly they turned on them. So it didn't really give like an indication of like the true purpose of what magicians could be, and he knew like deep down in his bones that magicians do have that purpose. So like eventually all of that tragedy and like like frustration and all of that, he like comes to despise like humans and then see them as lesser and himself as superior. And he does develop like a superiority complex and all of that, and that theme of like seeing yourself as superior is explored in this arc, but it's explored in many arcs, like this idea of seeing yourself as better than someone, and the issues of that, and actually seeing yourself as special and what comes with that. Like even Aladdin in this arc like thinks of himself as like a Magi, and he's disappointed when he sees that like Titus is he's not like a Magi in the same way he is a Magi. So through that he creates like a separation between himself and others. And so it's kind of like when you put yourself in like an elevated category, like the distance that can create. And we see like the folly of that perspective through Magomed, because he ends up descending, and then we have all those like amazing fights. Well, amazing fight between we first get like a really good skirmish between like the other finalist members from the Lame Empire, and we get to see like a really cool battle between them and Aladdin and like the rest of the magicians too. But then it really like pops off when the Ko Empire comes in, and we get to see all of their abilities hitting like that Illa monster. And that was great as well. That was definitely like the peak part of it, in my opinion, alongside Matal Magomed's character. And I'm really glad that he ended with a character thing and not just them pummeling him, because, we already saw that pummeling him, like that Illa thing, didn't work. So it's great that the way it was all kind of resolved was through Magomed's character. I also loved like the pacing for the Magnestadt arc. It always felt like something was happening, and the parts that were slow, they really needed to be slow. So that's kind of what I enjoyed about this arc. So I'm chugging it at, right in S, and I don't think anyone's really going to be surprised by that one. Now this arc, what is that? Okay, so the second Balbad arc. This one I do enjoy quite a bit. I do enjoy it more than the Pirates arc and the Sindria stuff, but not as much as Balbad, because I do think it falls into the same category as like the Sindria arcs, where it's like world building and things like that. But this arc specifically feels like, just Alibaba being kind of a loser. Saying that, he's with Morgiana and stuff, and then we find out that's not the case, and he's just being like a loser. It's pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie, but it is also kind of pathetic, but that's like the part that makes it funny. And all of it is but it's really what it's about is him like creating his own household, and we get to see his household take center stage. And we also get to see him meet his previous friends from Balbad, and how the Ko Empire has like changed it after taking rule. And it's not all like hunky-dory, like things are still kind of sinister, like even though their needs are being met, their soul is kind of being picked away at. And and Alibaba gets to see that, so I thought that was great as well. I just think this arc's pretty good. We also get to see like Yunnan, and we get to really like directly see that he sees Sinbad as someone who's suspicious, which I thought was really good, like especially at that time in the story when like we're already kind of suspicious of Sinbad, but just just directly disliking him, I thought was great. And we also get to see like the image of like the finalists, that like double page spread of the finalists. That was amazing. Like that was like pretty revolutionary, and all of this is building towards like the summit, where we'll get to see the Almatoran arc and them explaining all of that. And that was and that arc, so let's go into that arc, which to me is an S, and I think it's better than the Magnestadt arc. And that might be slightly controversial because it's not with any of our main characters, but in my opinion it's just really good. I made a whole video on it if you guys want to check it out. It was just like a review and thoughts on the Almatoran arc, so I won't go too in depth with that, but it's just everything to do with like Sheba and how she's kind of deluded by David's teachings, and then eventually she finds herself within the group, within like within Solomon's alliance, and just how it all kind of comes down. We get to see Arba. Like seeing Arba is also very important because she's probably like the best, in my opinion, the best villain. I mean, like Sinbad's up there, but I just really like Arba because she's crazy, but she's not crazy, and that's like the main thing. Like we find through this arc that Arba comes to this conclusion of wanting to take people into depravity and all of that stuff because she reveres Illa, and we know that, like, we understand why she is the way that she is, because from her perspective Solomon killed her god. So like all of that is just really great. Yeah, I made a full video on it, so I'm not going to go too in depth with it right now, but it's just yeah, like it's probably my personal favorite arc. Yeah, I just love like the switcheroo. Not even a switcheroo, it's just like the added complexity and depth that comes from this arc. I feel like it trickles out into just every other arc and recontextualizes so many other previous arcs as well. So it has like such reverberating effects that I really value it, and I see it as kind of inspiring. Like, it's like really well made. Now the Co-Empire arc is a really good one. I'm gonna put it above the Magnestadt arc, but for me it's pretty close. Yeah, like it starts off just like immediately we find out that Hakuryu has killed what's her name? I was just talking about her. Aba has killed Gyokuen, and we're just like, what the hell? Like immediately we find that out, and then we get to see how that actually happened, and the way he like amasses an army, the way he gets like a new power, and what all of that means. Yeah, and it's paced excellent. I mean, like it's paced so well. Like things are just happening. At the start when I was reading it, I was like, I don't know if I like this pacing because it feels too fast. But then just seeing where the arc actually ends up going and what he actually ends up doing, it was great. Like the first 20 chapters is like Hakuryu amassing power, and then we get to see like the fight between Hakuryu and Gyokuen, and the way they beat her, like, and it's just brutal. Like he like bites into her, like it's brutal and it's amazing, and the art is just gorgeous, and we get to really see Judah and Hakuryu and their dynamic and like what it all means for them. So that was excellent. And then we get to see like the fight between like Aladdin and Judah, which was awesome. This was something we've been waiting to see because they've always had this like rivalry, but really it was kind of like a rivalry just based on Judah's distaste for Aladdin. But it's also like the fact that Aladdin showed him everything that what do you call it, the like the organization did to Judah, and yeah, they have just this like rivalry, but it really is just based on Judah's disgust of Aladdin and everything he represents and everything that he's annoyed about. And then Alibaba and Hakuryu have this like, they're like friends, but they're also like both royalty. They have so many like similarities, but they also like go about it in a different way. And Hakuryu has so much angst, like personal angst and personal troubles, while Alibaba is kind of like this idealist who doesn't want to even look at his like negative parts. So they like fight, and yeah, and just the outcome of the fight, like, oh my god, like the fact that like Alibaba loses and he gets, you know, transported into like another dimension, which we find out in the final arc, but it really does feel like he like dies or something. I mean, obviously when we're reading, we're like, there's no way, like you wouldn't just kill off your main character, because it felt like Alibaba still had places to go with his character, and I'm glad that the final arc does explore that. But yeah, like just the somber tone and like the look of Aladdin's face when he starts crying when he's like trying to beg Alibaba back. But also like it's kind of amazing because he doesn't really hold that much, like he doesn't really hold any animosity towards Hakuryu for what he did, because, you know, Aladdin is also just, well, the fact of the matter is what he does to Judah is insane. He just keeps pushing him out with like his incomplete spatial magic, and he gets just thrown out, and like Judah can't do anything about it. He's in space. So it's just yeah, like the outcome and the atmosphere I loved just yeah, just the whole thing really. Like it was really well done. And now we got the final arc, and I'm gonna put it at the start of A. I was wondering if I put Balbat above it, but I've looked at the final arc, and while I think it has its issues, I also think the final arc is actually pretty good. Like okay, it's rough because like maybe, I don't know, I'm gonna leave it there for now, but like I think there's so many good moments in the final arc. So like I think there's so many well done character moments that just go, I feel like it kind of goes unnoticed. Like it does start off kind of slow with Alibaba kind of getting used to the new world, but then very quickly we get to see his dynamic with Sinbad. We get to see him talk to his like former teacher, all of that stuff, which I thought was good. But like the real crux of it is just like we do get payoffs, I would say. It's just, it does feel like a bit rushed. Like, for example, like the battle between Aladdin and Gyokuin, I feel like Gyokuin's like finale should have been a bit more hard earned, because before, like, we get this impression that we just can't beat this monster. Like, she keeps coming back even when we think we've defeated her. She's crazy, but then Aladdin kind of off screen ends up getting so powerful that now she can't even touch him, which is kind of disappointing. Actually, you know what, I'm gonna put the final arc after Balbad, because that is kind of disappointing. I do think Sinbad's character is actually done really well in the final arc. I think his need to be special, which is what I talked about in the Magnostadt arc, like this goes double for Sinbad, where he really believes that he is the right person. He has the correct opinion. He he values his own. He really believes that he is special. He really believes that he was born to do great, and he kind of does. Like, that's the crazy part. Like, in the final arc, he brings like this universal peace, but obviously there's cracks in that universal peace. But like, the real thing is, he doesn't believe that other people's opinions have anywhere close to as much value as his own does, because he truly can see like the future of what the world should be. Like, he feels like he is chosen, and David also has that feeling that they are chosen in a certain way. And this is like the issue of thinking that you're chosen by something, like the actual like vanity that kind of comes from that. Well, Alibaba, in contrast, as a king, he doesn't like fully. He doesn't believe that. In fact, like, when he goes to Balbad again and it's like, are you going to become king? He's like, no, because what I realized was me wanting to become Balbad is because I thought I was owed Balbad in a certain way. Like, he thought he had like the ownership of the actual country, when he was like, actually, I don't need that anymore. Like, that's not the kind of king that I'm going to be. And that's his perspective of like not ruling. And that gives him like almost like the freedom to actually have his own discernment of like what he wants to do. So yeah, I feel like Alibaba does have some good development in this final arc as well, and I do think Sinbad is actually explored pretty well. Like, his thought process on like why he's trying to like change the world to into like the Rook, and like getting rid of that, and like wanting to become God, and just all of that stuff. I think it's actually pretty well done, all things considered. I do think it gets like a bit confusing, but I do think it actually has like a decent amount of merit that I feel like people don't really like. Like, I do think like Sinbad's fatal flaw is that he just can't see himself as human. Like, Aladdin always says, like, you're gonna make like a mistake, right? Like, you're a human, you make mistakes. Like, even like, you might seem like a god right now because you have all this power, but that doesn't mean you're like without flaws. And he just can't kind of get that into his brain, and he sees himself as the one who sees fate. So I thought that was really good. I also thought like Sinbad's comment about like, why did he tried to like overpower Ugo, but then he lost, but then he actually was able to do that, and he was like, well, I thought I would die, but I did return to life. So like, who made that happen? Was it Solomon? Whose will was it? So yeah, I just feel like the conceptual like discussion was great. I also did like Arbor, like, after, like, so like, I didn't think her defeat was that great, but I did think her just kind of being around was really good. Like, I really like her perspective of like, man, I just want this to whole end. Like, I just want all of this to end. I'm not really like into this. Like, people don't revere Il-Ila as at all. It's only once they start talking about Il-Ila that she actually gets activated. So I thought all of that was really good as well. Yeah, and I also like the whole like dungeon stuff where they had to go through like a couple of dungeons. So this is probably like the final arc's dungeon exploration thing is probably my favorite version of the dungeon explorations, which was essentially Sinbad being like the villain of the dungeon, and then them having to kind of have this argument with him and provide like a solution. I personally find that more exciting. So yeah, I did enjoy that quite a bit, and I also like that it didn't overstay its welcome. Like, it was just like a few of them, and then once Sinbad got like the answers that made sense to him, or like once they kind of reach a certain conclusion, that part was just kind of moved on. Like, I didn't want to see every single thing or every gin equip being like, I just rather us like see how do I say this, like, I can't remember if we see like all of the gin equips, but I didn't want to have this formulaic way of discovering them, so I like that he did cut it short in a certain way. So yeah, those are my opinions on like the arcs. So like that's my final ranking. I think it's a pretty good ranking, all things considered. Yeah, so I'm just gonna like reiterate it. So like at number 1 we have the Almataran arc, and that's because I feel like it recontextualizes everything. We have the Co-Empire arc, and that's for the intense emotions. The Magnestadt arc, and that's because I just feel like it's the crux of Metal Mogamet, and just the way it's formulated is good. We have the Belbat arc, and the reason why I like that is I feel like it's what hooked me. We have the final arc, which I think is slightly underrated, but I also think it does deserve its criticism at the same time. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go through all of them. Like, those are kind of like my top 5 right now. And yeah, I feel like it is going to be like a lot of people's top 5, most likely. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and yeah, I'll see you guys for the next one. Okay, thanks.